So good afternoon, Neil. How are you this fine sunny day?
Hello, Peter. I'm doing very, very well indeed. Enjoying the heat. Enjoying the heat.
Good man. Good man. Good man. So Neil, tell me a little about yourself and your business, please.
Well, my name's Neal McCullough, and I am an illustrator and I'm a graphic designer. So, I mean, primarily illustrator. I've been a graphic designer since maybe the late 90s. But in 2008, late 2008, early 2009, after I don't know how many redundancies in the creative industries, I thought I'm going to do this on my own. So I set up my own little studio called Hand Drawn Creative. Now, a lot of folks in and around Bangor and Northdown may well know me from that name, or again, if they read the Spectator every week in Bangor and County Down, you'll know me because I do a little cartoon every week for those guys too. So, I mean, I'm out there a lot. If you walk down, say, for example, Bangor High Street, you will see logos and you will see pictures and illustrations that have either been done by me or have been inspired by me over the years. So, yeah. So, but I mean, it's been a while. I've been at it a while. Either way. So I'm
Are you like Bangor's answer to Banksy then?
Bangor's Banksy, not too much. I mean, I wouldn't go that far, but but at a push, you could do it.
Good man, good man. Okay, so Neil, whenever you were growing up, is this what you wanted to do? Is this what you saw yourself doing?
Yeah, I mean, it always was the dream. It was one of those things where I think my folks, when I was growing up, they had plans for me, as your mum and dad usually would do. I was always very good at languages, so my family always pushed me towards Europe, and they pushed me towards doing French, German, and again business, which is stuff that I'd done at university, was business administration in European languages, and so that was kind of where I was heading. But I remember I went on our last family holidays. We were at a Euro camp, and I just always brought a pencil and a pad with me, no matter where I went. And still to this day, I always carry a pencil, a pen, and a big bit of good, half decent drawn paper with me, because you never know when inspiration strikes. And I was sketching away all through this holiday, and the guy who was camping beside us was a businessman from the south of England, and he clocked me drawing all the time. He said, "What are you drawing there, son?" I said, "Well, just cartoons, this and that. It's just something for fun." And he said, "These are really good." And I was like, "Oh, that's very nice of you to say that." And again, my dad was chatting to him as well at the time. He said, "Listen, next door neighbor, now you might remember this. My next door neighbor is a fellow called Giles. Now, Giles used to do the cartoons for the Daily Express from, I think, the end of World War II onwards, or at least the early 50s. So again, my dad was the biggest Giles fan. And whenever this guy was like, "Can I take some of your son's cartoons and show them to Giles? I think this guy has talent." I think even at that stage, my dad was like, "Oh gosh, you could actually make a few quid doing this, son. I mean, this might be a kind of a thing that you could maybe do." And I've always sort of thought that always stuck with me. And I was about 14 at the time, 14 or 15. And it was always in the back of my mind. And I just was like, you know what, I'm going to do this anyway, no matter what I do at university, no matter what I study at college. This is always in the back of my mind. Illustration is something, I mean, I can't take it away from you. And it's one of those things as well. If you can do it, well, it shows. If you can't, it shows pretty badly too. But so it's yeah, by all means, it's always been the dream. And I'm now nearly 49 in a couple of weeks, and I'm still doing it. It's great. It's good fun. I wouldn't do anything else, definitely.
Good man, good man. And who would be your ideal customer, Neil?
Well, I mean, ideally, I do like working with small businesses. And again, that was showing in the Bangor area. There's a lot of companies that I've worked with from the ground up, and sort of tried to work out their corporate identity and work with them to get their branding correct and make sure that the logo is sitting pretty and presentable and professional. That's brilliant. I love working with smaller folks, but again, ideally, I mean, over the years, I've really, I like working in a business to business fashion. For example, I'll work really well with another graphic design agency or an advertising agency or a marketer, or again, that's the kind of folks who they understand what I do, how long it takes me to do it, what it's worth, definitely. So it's graphic design and illustration are notoriously difficult to price. And again, you're a man on the street, could sometimes be horrified with the prices that you might charge. But again, if you're working within the creative industries and with other agencies within creative industries, that makes things a lot smoother, I must admit. And again, the folks that you'll be working with know what to expect, how much in and around how much it's going to come to, and how long it's going to take. So that would be usually my ideal customer. But having said that, when you're working with folks that, I mean, so many times they just get phone calls straight off the bat from a complete stranger who is setting up a company, and they're like, right, how do we do this? And you know, they're maybe at that stage in their own career, or when they're finding their own company, that the whole process is exciting, and they are just so keen to get involved with what I do, because it's just such a different thing for people to get involved in, maybe than they're, you know, than they usually be used to doing in their day-to-day job. Or so it can, you know, you get a lot out of both kinds of client, really. You know, it's good.
Sure. And of all the actions that you've taken as because of the pandemic, are there any that will remain part of your business ongoing?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's definitely the Zoom calls. I mean, really, as you can see, I'm just in the back garden. I've been in the back garden for over a decade. And so
you were a trendsetter then, Neal?
Much so, the original Shedward. And but I've been doing this for a long, long time. So in terms of my day-to-day working, nothing changed. I've been very used to my own company, and I've been listening to podcasts since 2007, before they were trendy. And that's what's been keeping me company for a long, long time. But the one thing that would stick from the pandemic that I didn't do before is really the Zoom calls. And I will, you know, didn't really like them to begin with, but I'm definitely getting used to them now. It's something that I'm finding really, really good whenever you're especially when you're meeting a client for the first time. You can send a brief email and say, let's have a Zoom call and get to know each other, because you can read people's faces, you know, and again, you can sort of ask them a question and you can see instantly, oh, she didn't like that, or that's good. You know, you can sort of see you know, well, with an expressive raise of one eyebrow, you know exactly where you're going. And, you know, like, you know, in business, you've got to know how to read people. And so facial recognition and expressions are really, really helpful. So the Zoom call is, I mean, it's a thumbs up for me, really, you know, eventually. But, so that's
Good.
definitely what I'll be taking on.
Good. And what would you say has been your biggest learning since you've sort of been a business owner?
Yeah, no, as you can imagine, being a creative like myself and having my room filled with pictures and light-hearted ephemera, that's kind of always how I presented myself, as like a very personable person. But I mean, you can't be that guy all the time. And again, quite recently, actually, I brought my wife has come on board as part of the team and has become my studio manager, which is good, because she means business. Whereas I really wouldn't so much. So so one thing we've done recently, and again, it's something we've come back to, and I've maybe sort of lapsed in the past, but it's something we're really, really working on with Hand On Creative anyway at the moment. It's making sure you've got your terms and conditions in order. That is your Bible in terms of running the business. You need to have the terms and conditions there, so that your clients, new and old, or are able to say, right, well, hang on, I don't know what to do about this, that, or the other. I said, well, oh no, hang on, if you go to sub-paragraph, etc., you'll be able to see exactly what happens in that situation, because we prepare for all the eventualities. So that's something we're really keen on at the minute. And again, something that I've started doing as well is drawing up a contract for anything before your business project or design project starts. I'm drawing up contracts with my clients just so they know what to expect, when to expect, when I expect payment, and when you expect your artwork to be delivered. And again, are you taking ownership of that artwork as well for maybe a year or two? Do you want to license the artwork from me, which is a really big thing with illustration specifically as well? Or are you going to buy out the artwork outright? So, you know, there's different ways to do things, and there's different people will expect different eventualities from the job as well. So again, terms and conditions, definitely.
Very good, good learning. And what's the biggest challenge that you're currently facing in your business at the minute?
Oh gosh, let me think. Really, in the last year, coming out of the pandemic as well, I think the main problem I've had with my company at the minute is cash flow. So something that we're doing at the moment, which probably wouldn't have been quite so bothered about in the past, is really even getting a small deposit for work to begin. What I'm finding with a lot of people, and specifically in marketing, is they're not really sure about how their budgets are going to stretch at the moment, and there's a lot of hesitancy to do a lot of things. I'm finding maybe jobs that would take a couple of weeks are maybe taking a couple of months, and yeah, it's a tricky one. So I'm asking for cash flow's sake, just for a small deposit up front. And again, if the project is overrunning slightly, or maybe taking months rather than weeks, when we're expecting maybe this to be done within 7 days, it's maybe 2 months. So we're asking for smaller payments through it, just to make sure that I'm covered and you're covered too. So that's the most recent thing that I would say that's been a challenge, definitely.
Okay, and what gives you the most inspiration today? What inspires you the most?
I'll tell you what's happened recently. Again, another thing in the last couple of months there, I found a brand new client found me. And this is a woman who is working out of Los Angeles, and is a practicing designer herself. And it was just a really inspirational job that she came to me with, and it was a real pleasure to work on. The inspiring part being a friend of hers had died over the pandemic, like we all know, and she is now setting up a foundation in her friend's name. And I can't really say much about the job itself or the client itself, because it's yet to launch. But for me, it was a real head turner, because it was just one of the most fun jobs for me to work on. And again, you're sort of in the same vein, where you're making sure that an important person is being remembered too. And so I find that very inspiring. I've lost people over the pandemic. I'm sure everyone has. And to have that mark in some way is really special. Again, I think the outcome of this one is going to be a really, really special job. I'm really pleased with it. So I find that a really inspiring experience.
Nice, good story, great story. So look, if it were possible, and it's not that long ago, but what advice would you give to your 18-year-old self?
Now, I spoke to my wife about this one as well, and I always say this, and she says, "You can't say that out loud, for goodness sake." No, and again, it is only my own experience, and I will not be saying this to my kids. I always say that this is what my experience. I spent a lot of time at university, and I didn't really learn that. So I say I'm an illustrator, primarily in my business. I haven't got one qualification to my name that says Neal McCullough is. I have no illustration qualifications at all. I did do graphic design for a couple of years, but again, when I went through the process, I've got to say it, I learned more on the first week of the job in the years I spent at university studying it. Again, my wife won't like me saying this, but I would tell my 18-year-old son, get a job as a tea-boy in an advertising agency and just start from the ground up. And again, that is no disrespect to all the people that put, decades into, tertiary level education and beyond, because I couldn't do it. God, I just didn't enjoy it, to be honest. I mean, I've got more out of just sort of grabbing a pencil and a piece of paper and going around the houses and just presenting myself. That's where the self-confidence came from. And yeah, it's old school, I'm sorry, but it's one of those trades. I think it's yeah, it's different. You can, and again, it's one of those things, the proof's in the pudding, and again, with me, I didn't sort of really do the university thing with this, but that's what I ended up doing. It's a weird one. Doesn't really happen much these days.
Sure. And in terms of if somebody wanted to avail of your services or get in touch with you, Neal, what would be the best way to go about that?
people just seem to find me. I don't know. I very rarely ring them around. But one thing I'm doing at the minute is I'll hold it up here and let's see what happens. So I'm just going to send these through. That's my new flyer with everything on it. So this, again, we're going old school, actual paper. There will be an email as well, obviously, Peter. But that's how I'm sort of getting things out these days. So I'm actually putting together my first, what would you call it? Not newsletter, but you know, an actual list of everybody's, like a mailing list. So I'm literally going around the houses. That's what I was doing this afternoon. Funny enough, was actually finding out all the names of all the creative directors in Belfast, and then I'm going to move on to Scotland and Glasgow and London and then on to America, and just actually amass a proper sort of list of companies that I might like to work with. But in terms of getting in touch with me directly, or the best way is just look for hand-drawn creative on the internet. I'll be about there somewhere. Or again, Neal McCullough, Neal with an A, and that's the man. And just there's not many of us about there. I think there's about 3 Neal McCulloughs in the world online. I checked one time. It's just me and like some bloke that really likes dogs somewhere in Nebraska. But so you know, but that's the thing. But if you're local, you know, I'm easy enough to find as well. But people just tend to find me completely out of the blue. Like I was saying, that lady in LA, I didn't know who she was. She just found a picture online and was like, "Oh, that looks good," and then found my name attached to it, and hey presto, it happened.
Brilliant. All right.
Every day is different. I love it, you know.
Good man. Look, Neal McCullough of the Hand Drawn Creative. Listen, thanks very much for your time this afternoon. It's been great to hear about you and your journey, and to see you in your studio, live in your studio. Fantastic. Thank you very much indeed.
But never mind. It's too late now. Thank you so much, Peter. Cheers.
Cheers, Neal.